I woke up at 2 a.m. to a shadow in my bedroom doorway. My heart stopped. There she stood, Margaret Voss, the HOA president, clutching a clipboard, a measuring tape draped around her neck like some twisted badge of honor. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared at me and said she was conducting an emergency inspection to check if my curtains met community standards. I lay there, frozen, realizing she'd broken into my cabin while I slept. She'd crossed a line, and I'd been waiting for it. What happened next? It wasn't just a prunket, it was the spark that burned her world to the ground. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and 6 months ago, I thought buying a cabin by Willow Lake would bring me peace. I was dead wrong. This wasn't about taxes or leaky roofs. It was about a woman who thought measuring your grass with a ruler made her a god. Let me take you back to the start, when I still believed people could be reasonable. I bought this place because it was my parents' old home. Back in the 80s, Willow Lake was a haven. Families helped each other, kids learned to swim, and my mom and dad were at their happiest. I'd see their eyes light up when they talked about their garden or catching fireflies with me on summer nights. After they passed, buying this cabin felt like grabbing a piece of their paradise. But paradise always has a snake. Margaret Voss was that snake. Gray hair stiff as steel, a clipboard she wielded like a sword, and 8 years as HOA president after being pushed out of her banking job. She'd march up to you, chin tilted like she was 10 feet tall, even at barely 5 feet 4 inches. 3 weeks after I moved in, I was unpacking in my garage, surrounded by boxes that still smelled like my parents' house, when I heard her sharp steps on the gravel. "You're the new owner," she said, skipping any welcome. Her voice was soft, but it chilled me to the bone. "I'm Margaret Voss, HOA president. We need to discuss your violations." Violations? I'd been there 3 weeks. She rattled off a list: garbage cans 6 inches off, grass 2 3/4 inches tall, garden hose an eyesore. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She handed me a notice. Fix it in 72 hours or pay due law 50 daily fines per issue. I called my buddy Jake in Denver, expecting him to laugh. He didn't. "Man, you've got a dictator," he said. "Keep your head down. Fix the violations. Don't give her leverage." So I did. I moved the cans, mowed the lawn to exactly 2.5 inches, hid the hose like it was illegal. I thought that'd be it. 2 weeks later, another notice. My mailbox was rustic oak instead of classic cedar. The colors were identical to anyone with eyes, but not to Margaret. That's when I saw what was happening at Willow Lake. She wasn't just enforcing rules, she was spreading fear. Neighbors hid when she walked by. The bulletin board was a war zone of new rules nobody voted on. People whispered about fines, DRIVYing friends to sell their homes. The breaking point came at the mailbox center. I overheard Margaret talking to Lily Carter, a new HOA board member who still believed in fairness. Margaret waved official papers, saying the planning department approved 99 new houses, set to boost property values. Lily frowned. Didn't residents vote against that to keep the small town VYB? Margaret's smile was venomous. "Leadership means tough calls, dear." I froze, pretending to sort mail. No one had mentioned this at meetings. That night, I dug into public records. The planning department had approved the expansion after shady amendments submitted by someone with banking know-how. Guess who? Sitting in my Leave VYing room, holding a photo of my parents in their garden, I felt my hands shake. This cabin was their world, the last place their laughter lived. Outside, I heard construction equipment for Margaret's 99 houses. That's when I decided some memories are worth fighting for. I started with security cameras, but my software engineer brain had bigger plans. Grief and anger? They're rocket fuel for Creati VY tie. In my garage, I found supplies from a haunted house, project water-based paint, industrial fans, craft feathers, motion sensors. Most would have tossed them. I started sketching. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. Online, I stumbled on a lawsuit from 2 years back. The Wilsons, who'd lived in my cabin, were fined into bankruptcy by Margaret over daily changing violations. The husband had a heart attack during the legal fight. His widow sold for due law $30,000 below market to escape. They'd love this place too. Margaret didn't just enforce rules, she ruined lives for fun. That's when paint and feathers became war. I rigged spray nozzles with neon pink, electric blue, and blinding yellow paint and toxic, but sticky. Motion sensors would trigger them if my door opened without a keypad code. Ceiling fans would blast feathers to stick to the paint, and speakers would scream, "Intruder alert," at deafening volume. Hidden cameras would catch it all. 3 days later, Margaret tested it. I was in my office when I heard her voice outside, berating Lily for trailing her. "Unauthorized security equipment, improper curtains, and an unlicensed business," she barked, loud enough for neighbors to hear. Lily whispered, "Maybe schedule an inspection?" Margaret snapped, "Reasonable people don't act like paranoid criminals." Then she pulled out locksmith tools. She was breaking in. I grabbed my phone, recording as she popped the lock and pushed the door open. Chaos erupted. Paint sprayed, coating her in neon nightmare. She stumbled, clawing her eyes as fans roared, unleashing a feather tornado. The speakers blared, dogs barked, and Lily screamed, knocking Margaret's clipboard into the feather storm. Neighbors ran out, filming. Margaret looked like a rainbow peacock had exploded on her. "What have you done?" she sputtered, paint dripping. I leaned out my window. "Hey, Margaret, didn't hear you knock." Feeling festive. Her glare could have burned holes. "This is assault," she hissed. "Actually," I said, still recording, "you broke in. Sheriff might want to chat." She dragged Lily away, Leah VY in colorful footprints. That night, I shared the VY Deo. Willow Lake went wild. But as I watched the sunset, her words, "You'll pay," echoed. I'd poked a beast. 2 days later, a courier delivered a lawyer's letter demanding due law $5,000. Worse, it included photos of me working, eating, sleeping taken by professional surveillance. She'd been watching me for weeks. In one photo, I saw a reflection, a man with a camera, standing where I'd seen Margaret with a tech guy by the water facility. Then it hit me. Years ago, I designed security for government sites, including Willow Lake's water system. Someone with access could flood or drain the lake. What if Margaret's tech guy wasn't just spying? What if they were planning to destroy the community? I upgraded my defenses with AI-generated audio police sirens. FBI raid commands triggered remotely. 3 days later, Margaret and her tech guy tried again, sneaking up at night. I watched them scan for sensors, but I triggered the audio. "FBI, exit with your hands up." The tech guy bolted, but Margaret stood firm, calling someone. My system went dead-hacked. Then it roared back louder. Lily ran up, tablet in hand, VYing overridden the hack. Margaret spun, her mask cracking. "You fool!" she screamed, slapping Lily so hard it echoed. Lily held her cheek but stared back, fearless. "Everyone will see you now," she said. The next morning, neighbors flooded my yard, furious about Margaret's raid and assault. Then came worse news. Notices about emergency water assessments. Margaret was weaponizing the lake. At 7 a.m., a reporter called about a story on HOA disputes. His tone was too slick. "Someone reported harassment," he said. I knew it was Margaret, painting me as the VY lane. My friend Tom, who'd been fined over house paint, warned me Margaret was with a news crew, framing me as dangerous. I needed something undeniable. I dug a mud pit inside my entrance, filled it with clay and compost, and covered it with painted plywood. Step on it, and you'd sink into 3 feet of muck caught on camera. As I finished, a news van and Margaret's car pulled up. She led a reporter and cameraman, ranting about my surveillance fortress. She claimed vandalism and fear for her safety. Then she said, "I have emergency inspection rights," and picked my lock on camera. She stepped inside, and the floor collapsed. Mud swallowed her, splattering everywhere. She flailed, coated in sludge, as the cameraman filmed. "Turn it off," she screamed, but the reporter grinned. The story aired. HOA president falls into trap. Margaret vanished, her house dark. I knew she wasn't done. At 3:30 a.m., Sheriff Daniel Hayes woke me. Margaret accused me of assault and terrorism, claiming my mud pit caused trauma. She had edited my footage to show her as a VY Tim and faked audio of me threatening her. At the station, I explained the AI manipulation and her water system scheme. The sheriff listened, intrigued, but warned me, no more traps. He'd investigate. That afternoon, I dug into Margaret's finances. She'd been forced out of banking over irregularities, then took over the HOA, controlling funds alone. She'd embezzled through fake fees, funneling cash to investment funds. The 99 houses were a scam for kickbacks. Lily called, terrified. She'd recorded Margaret planning to flood my property and flee abroad. She's activating flood protocols tonight, Lily said. My parents' home would be underwater by dawn. The HOA meeting that night was Margaret's stage to frame me. But Lily had rallied the neighbors. The community center was packed, buzzing with anger. Margaret strode in, briefcase in hand, ready to play her fake audio. Ethan Caldwell is a danger, she began. Before she could, Lily stood. Let's hear the real recordings. Margaret's voice filled the room, admitting to embezzlement and flooding plans. The crowd roared. Margaret lunged for Lily's tablet, but neighbors blocked her. Frank Sullivan, a retired FBI agent, stood. Explain the water facility's unauthorized active tie, he said. Margaret snapped. You'll ruin everything I built. Sheriff Hayes stepped in, cuffing her. We've got your water system logs, he said. It's over. The investigation exposed Margaret's $200,000 theft, development fraud, and lake manipulation to force sales. She got 5 years and had to repay every cent Willow Lake elected a fair board, scrapped the 99 houses, and banned unchecked power. I dismantled my traps, donating the paint to a school. Margaret's measuring stick hangs in my garage, a reminder. 3 months later, we held Willow Lake Community Day. Neighbors shared food, taught workshops, and rebuilt trust. A new couple thanked me, saying this was a place to raise kids. My parents' dream lived again. One night, Lily brought wine to celebrate Margaret's guilty plea. She's trying to run a prison HOA, she laughed. The guards call her complaints the Margaret Files. We watched the lake, peaceful under the stars. Lily offered me a board role to protect the community. I accepted, with rules. No secrets, no rulers. Tom gave me a map labeling homes with families' names and Hobby Ace a Good Neighbor project. This was the Willow Lake my parents loved. Now, tell me, what would you do if someone like Margaret targeted your home? Would you fight with traps or play her game? Should communities ban HOAs to stop this kind of abuse? Or are they worth SAVYing? Drop your thoughts below, hit like if you're with me, and subscribe for more stories where justice wins.